Nice. But in my opinion, our craziest ephemera the world has ever seen, Poppyfield Avenue edition, is not crazy enough yet. So let's try to dress the whole story up a little bit today. This looks a little bit like I had a cat, but I don't. How funny. This is just some water and this is some instant coffee. I quickly want to throw a little bit of that in here so that it can already dissolve, so that I have the chance to say hello and welcome to this video. This is Luise Heinzl and this shall become my Poppyfield Avenue junk journal with my newest digital paper collection, which is also called Poppyfield Avenue. And that paper collection you can obviously find in my shop. The links are all down below in the description box if you want to check that out. And there's also a playlist with all of the videos I've already published. This is like a little time travel thingy, because if you click to the playlist, you can also see that there's a video which is called Poppyfield Avenue Paper Premiere, and there you have already seen these signatures bound into a cover. So you have seen like a bound journal in the paper premiere, because I thought it's helpful to see a journal made with a new, this didn't happen, made with a new paper collection, so that you can imagine how that can look. And if you have seen that, then you already know what this is and you are not confused about what we have here. If you haven't seen the other videos, then you might think, what the heck, did she lose her mind or what has she done? I wanted to try out something, and until now it was pretty successful. We are not talking about 2 phones which died in this room, but that has nothing to do with my project here. But my nerves are a little bit wrecked, not only because of my dead phones, but also because of this technique here, because I have not done that before I did it here. And because of that, this makes me a little bit nervous, because what I did here was I have sticked my ephemera pieces down with masking tape, also some pieces over each other. So here is a tag over this card. And I've thrown different things on here, and I want to throw even more on here. But this is now the last step of throwing something on. And then later on, we will remove these pieces and then see the actual pages, because what we have here now is just for preparation. Yeah. And then we will also have our single ephemera pieces, which we can then use with other techniques and bring them into the spots where we want to have them. So what I want to do today is I want to go through my signatures in a pretty strategical way. So what do I want to do today? I have some stencils. I've chosen these mini stencils by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz, but you could also obviously take the normal sized stencils if you have the minis and you are working with approximately this size. Take them, because I think that looks really cool. But there's no problem with using the bigger ones as well. Could happen that I perhaps will change my mind later when I see how this will come out. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take some neutral oxide inks. I have brushed corduroy, which is medium neutral, vintage photo, and ground espresso. Please take whatever you want. I have chosen the oxide inks because I thought it could be a good idea to have something which is opaque to layer this on here. Because what I want to do now is I want to first go through all of the signatures and find spots where I want to just stencil with my oxide inks. Just for another layer, for another spot of more interest, for another, you know, yeah, just more. In this case, I really think that more is more. This looks pretty busy, and it is busy, but I'm pretty convinced that that will even change later when we go on with the other steps. And this is still creating the background. So if you think, what the heck is she doing? Trust the process, okay? So what I'm doing here is I look where I have my ephemera pieces. This is nearly invisible. Here's, for example, a little pocket. Here is nothing yet. And especially on those ephemera pieces where I haven't done anything yet, I want to have my stenciling now. Later, I also want to stencil with texture paste. So that means if I now, for example, decide here could be some stenciling as well, but I don't want to do that with my oxide ink, but later on with the texture paste, then I can just skip this and go to the next page, because we can then later just do that with the texture paste. And I want to irregularly alternate the paste and the ink. And perhaps you have some areas where you think, oh, here is already pretty much texture because of the other techniques we've done before. Then it could make sense if you now say, okay, when there is already texture, then I take the oxide ink, because that obviously doesn't make any texture, and use that instead of texture paste, yeah, because then it's just flat. I also want to alternate the colors a little bit. So this was Vintage Photo, and I have taken out different stencils. I just thought it could look cool if we have a lot of different patterns here, because this paper collection is also really a wild mixture of very, very, very different things. They all fit the theme, yes, but they are really different in style, very different in color, and it's more like a collection of things which fit this theme. And because of that, I thought it could be good to have also many different patterns for the stenciling. Does that make sense? Because then it's also really, yeah, different. It's not everywhere the same. It's like a collection of different stenciled patterns, if that makes sense. And that was the reason why I have chosen so many different designs of the, or patterns of the stencils. So I will now first go on here with my oxide inks. I will do that for all of the signatures. Yeah, I go through them and look where it could make sense to stencil. Then I will do that, and then we can go on with the texture paste.
We used to meet at 9 p.m. down by the stationery nook. Just the two of us, graffiti marks, the streetlight ghosts. A hug, a kiss, that charming misprinted book, 'cause that was the one you loved the most. You tear out a page, then read a line or two. Your secret letters, hidden chapters I was longing for. You folded it and smiled. I love those words and you. And today, there's nothing I miss more. Send me letters dancing upon air, the ceremonies we used to share. Every line a whisper, a memory to renew. Send them to me, your letters from Poppy Field Avenue. The cobblestones remember us, though now they hum alone. I keep your words in.
So then when we have that, let's go on with our stencils again. I have not cleaned these, as you can see, because I thought we can use the rest of the mediums on here to get some more interest. Why not? Since I have never done something like this before, I want to go with like a normal paste first, which is the Texture Paste Opaque by Ranger and Tim Holtz. And apply that through a stencil somewhere, also there where my ephemera pieces are. I don't know if you can even see this here. Here's a tuck spot. And now the challenge is probably to get this through here without any problems. So what I'm going to do is I place the stencils there. The pages are again lined up like they were before. And now I want to make sure that I move this from my top layer in the direction away from the top layer, so that this slides over here like so and not like this. If I would start here through the stencil and would do it like so, then I would get this in between of the pages. That is not what we want, because then the pages would probably stick together later, and that is obviously not such a good idea, and I don't know what I'm doing here. I want to avoid that I have to clean my stencil my palette knife every single time, so I do it like this, so that I don't need to go into the jar again after I went over here, because here's obviously the oxide ink on the stencil and I don't want to get that into my jar. And the crazy thing is that I can't see what I'm doing here. I have now absolutely no idea where this is. I mean, where exactly... Ooh. Oh my goodness. I love it. I mean, where this exactly is, but that is probably the most fun about this technique. I mean, look. Oh, that looks absolutely cool. Okay, so can we perhaps do a little bit of that here as well? And as you can see, I also went on purpose over the other pages, yeah, because I want that this is still from here like one, but when you then open this, you can see it's more. And because of the different layers, this is really hard to control, but I really think that's the beauty of it. Absolutely amazing. I think we need to use this stencil more often, because this totally reminds two letters. I mean, it is letters, I mean written letters. These are letters as well. English is so difficult, you know what I mean. So this is THMS 040. I will put this aside so that this can air dry. I really like this page already, like it is. This is THMS 157 and I've used that here already. So why don't we line this up again? Just a little bit, but very irregular. That looks really cool. I think here this could look really cool as well. So here on the bottom there's a tuck spot. And here I go over this more than probably necessary. I mean, for the stenciling itself, but I want to have the ink also on the paste. And, you know, to get it off from the stencil and mixed with the paste, I go over it just a little more than I would usually do that, to make sure that the paste can get a little bit tinted. Obviously, the more often you do this through one and the same spot, the less ink is on here, but you could easily ink the stencil again. Did I say I use a lot of different stencils? But here I want to use this again because I really like this and I don't like these circles. I find that so crazy. Sometimes you can have something like these circles which you absolutely hate. I was like, when I did them in the video, I was like, what the heck, what have I done? And now they are totally part of this whole thing somehow. So here we go again. My phone died again. It was now in the fridge for half an hour. And in the meantime, I did some more stenciling with the opaque texture paste in some other spots in the signatures, but you know, that's nothing you have missed because it's just the same thing like I've done on the pages you've seen. And now I'm thinking I want to go on with crackle paste opaque. I'm scared a little bit because, to be honest, I have not used this so often through a stencil yet. But I'm hoping that we get something nice from this, especially some crackled areas. I think that could also fit really well to the theme. That worked well, of this whole thing. So I will let this air dry. What I thought is, if you perhaps are unsure where to put your stenciling, either with the oxide ink or with any kind of texture paste, I made this little trick for myself. Look, here is this tag, and this tag is on this card. And we have here this little edge. So I have put already my scribbling over this edge. The stenciling also goes over this, the stenciling with the oxide ink, I mean. And if I now take this and put this over here, I could even add more of the stenciling, but this time with the crackle paste. But I think I want to use this in this direction because the flowers are also upside down. And to not cover up everything from underneath. I don't want to cover up the whole stenciling I did with the oxide ink. I do the stenciling through this stencil with the paste pretty randomly, so yeah, that it gets much open areas. The cobblestones remember us. THS 084. This year I did without you for a reel I want to post on Instagram. It could be worth this little experiment to see what happens with the paste here, if that gets tinted by this spray which is underneath. This is peacock feathers spray stain mixed with a little bit of acrylic paint on the sponge, I mean, when I smashed it. Okay, it's a few minutes later. This is completely dry and this is perfection. This looks so cool. but I also like it in white here. I mean, you could tint the crackle paste and all the other pastes as well. But why am I putting this away? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But I really like it in white as well. Here, it looks a little bit naked. I thought we could also perhaps try some black texture paste, because that adds to this little bit like graffiti urban sketch style stuff. So let's see where we want to add something perhaps here. And I think it could also look good if we just take a little bit of the paste without a stencil. Yes, like so. This is so much fun. Let's do that here as well. This is almost dry, but the crackles turned out really nice as well on this one. So this is dry enough to go on. I have again set up my splatter box here because I now want to smash some coffee, some rust water. If you don't have rust water, you can also skip that or use something else. Like, for example, an oxide medium or spray stain, mica spray stain, or whatever, acrylic paint. You can use whatever you like. But an opaque medium in combination with coffee and rust water could make sense in my eyes, because I want that it really shows up here. So then we need something else. I take this. In here there's just already a little bit of coffee and rust water, which is, you know, dry, but that really doesn't matter. I just want to avoid that I get my oxide medium in here, and because of that I'm going to put a little bit of the coffee in here so that I can dip my sponge in this little thing. And I will also add some rust water additionally, because that makes a really nice black color immediately. But please use what you like. Now I take my sponge. I do this next to my, wait, can I? No, I can't. I do this here, okay, where you can't see it, but I take this and turn the bottle around so that the sponge gets soaked with the medium. I can't do that over the signature because otherwise I would probably drop on this. Now the oxide spray is on here. And then I dip into my mixture here. And then I want to smash it on here. And also, again, blow it around a little bit. So that some of the mediums underneath get revealed again. Here, let's perhaps use only the rest of the oxide spray, which is perhaps still in here, and only a little bit of the coffee rust water mixture, because then we can get something like this, which then will probably get a little bit different in color. That was definitely too much blowing. I'm sorry, this is really crazy. It was already too much of the medium. I blow it around so that it can't soak through the page. That was too liquid. Don't do that, okay? Use less of the medium. So I'm going to put this aside to dry. And the reason for this step is that I want to somehow connect the different layers with each other. The scribbling, the stenciling, the paste. And I also want to get this splattered look way more extreme throughout the whole journal. I don't want to get the splatters to her face, so I'm placing this here. And since this is coffee dyed photo paper, I will only dip my sponge into my mixture here without adding more of the oxide spray, because I'm hoping, yeah, for exactly this, that there's only a little bit of the oxide spray left, but mostly the mixture of the coffee and the rust water, because that looks absolutely amazing on such a coffee dyed paper. And now I try to smash these there where the ephemera pieces end, so that we get a connection between this pretty plain background and the card. We have something on the card here, but also a lot on the background. Does that make sense? Here is nothing yet. But what I thought was we could also use some more white. Oh no, will this fit in here? Hopefully. This is acrylic paint mixed with some water, but I will additionally spritz a little bit on here so that it really flies around. Not so successful. These blending tools are pretty good for blending, but obviously not for this. But I don't have a sponge dedicated to white. Which color would fit here? Hopefully, here's nothing purple in it. Where's my white now? I will take this. I will quickly test this on another paper because I'm afraid that there's pink in it. It's not even liquid. Okay. The trick is take the sponge and dip that in some water. I just did that over there in my little container for washing my stencils. And when the sponge is soaked with water, dip it into the paint. What a great advice. A second ago it worked. Look here, this is my test. This is the proof that it worked. What is that now? My goodness, it's just too hot here. Too hot to handle this. But let's just do it like so, okay? And then let's just pretend we wanted it like this from the very beginning. What a great background. My goodness. I hate when those things happen. Did it really? Okay. We had a peanut on the other page in the other video, and now we have white lines in her face. I mean, okay. It obviously went under the paper towel. But somehow it looks cool, doesn't it? Is that a happy accident? Probably. Okay, let's put this aside to dry. On this one, white doesn't make any sense, I think. So let's go with the frayed burlap again. A little bit to the sponge. I will do it like so, so that there's really only a little bit in there, so that this doesn't get too opaque, because I like this. And when I dip it now into the coffee rust mixture, the most of the things on my sponge are translucent. And with that, I'm hoping, oh, that was, oh my goodness, that was already a lot of the oxide spray. It is really intense, isn't it? But this is not so big, so that is pretty good. Without new oxide spray, without adding new oxide spray, I dip it into the mixture there. But the good thing is, when you have something like that, you can blow it around. And with that, it automatically gets a little bit more translucent. It's crazy how much of the oxide spray the sponge can hold. But on the other hand, it also looks really cool. It's still in here. Can you see that? There's still some of the color in there. Crazy. Ooh, but this looks really cool already. I will carefully put this aside to dry. And now I want to know how this looks on these crackled areas when we throw some of that on there. So here, where the coffee dyed paper is, I again dip the sponge only into the coffee and rust water mixture. Still getting some of the frayed burlap. Oh yes. And it happens what I was hoping for, that here where the crackle paste is, this gets really extremely old and aged, and you know, because the crackles come out in a totally different way when there's something on them. And obviously we can also tint, or not tint, or perhaps tint, bring some color to the paint, but to the paste by doing it like this. So here we go. It's a bit later, and I went through all of my signatures and looked for those spots where I wanted to have additionally this smashing with the different mediums. And I think this is now, this step is now finished. I have everywhere where I want that, these cool patterns. So this turned out really cool, and I really like this. So I did this now for all of the spots where I wanted to have that. Oh, here I think I missed to do it here. Don't know how that happened, but I definitely need more of that here. But in the rest of the signatures, I have it everywhere where I thought that could look great. And the next thing is, I will, as my homework, go through these again, do the missing spots. I will perhaps also add some white splatters. I've already tried that here on this page, because I thought what we make here now, or made here now, is still part of the background, right? And when we later on remove these pieces to reveal the whole page, it could be good if we already then have on the pages themselves and also on the ephemera pieces some splattering. I think that is a good idea. I will probably not do that everywhere, because if it's not a good idea, then I have it everywhere, yeah? And when I don't have it everywhere, I can play around with this idea in the next step and see what I like better. Then I have a comparison between those pieces where the splatters are and those where not the splatters are, and then I can compare what I like better and remember that for the next time when I do want to do something like this. So in the next video, we are going to take some snippets. I already have taken out these. These are the postage stamps from the Poppyfield Avenue ephemera pack. Look at these colors. I did this on purpose. I wanted to have these so badly in this printable. We will probably not use them all at the same time. Yeah, please imagine they are cut apart, but also, you know, when you have 3 of them, it's already pretty crazy with the colors, but I wanted them to be exactly like this because this is another style of the things. For example, compared to this, these little strips here, these little, you know, you could use them as collage tiles or as strips like so or so. But I want to cut these into little snippets, and then I want to include them also as another layer on these pages. And then when we have that, and we will probably also add some more things from my stash. So if you want to prepare that, look for snippets or take these from the ephemera pack. There are also other smaller things in the ephemera pack available. I have them here. Like, for example, these little things, like these little envelopes, those could also look cute, or this little thing would also work. There are also more, how is this called? Postage stamps in muted colors. You could even take something like this and cut that into pieces to have just tiny snippets. And those I want to glue to the pages. We will see if we can find out where to glue them, if there's perhaps a strategy as well, because this was pretty strategically done until now. And then also in the next video, we will take the ephemera pieces off from the pages and look what's underneath, and how with that our pages then look, and how the single ephemera pieces look when we have taken them off from the pages, because that will then be a total surprise, I think, when we see that, or can see that separately. So, see you the next time. Bye!